India has emerged as a hub for GCCs, Global Capability Centers. And not only technology, but we are seeing development coming in from the life science as well as the healthcare space in terms of GCCs, and that has been growing in India. To talk about all of this, we have our esteemed panel with us. We have Dawber from Novo Nordisk joining with us. We have Mohit Dhingra from BMS as well as Puneet Chopra from Takeda, and Phani Mitra from Dr. Reddy's, and we have Dr. Purav joining with us from HealthArk as well. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for giving us your time. It's a pleasure to have all of you all here on CNBC with BioAsia 2025. You know, this is a very interesting topic, and Mohit, I'm going to start with you because you've been here in this GCC segment for 1.5 years. That's when you started it. I want to start by just understanding your journey. How has that happened for BMS? How has it grown? What were the challenges? What did you see there?
Sure, thank you. Thanks for having me here. So firstly, Bristol Myers Squibb is in pursuing deep science medicines for our patients. So one thing that we have to look at is how do we move with a sense of urgency? How do we build a workforce that is very innovative? And that's really what led to we, building a capability center in Hyderabad, right? And if you just take the last 18 to 20 months, we now run 2,000 plus employees based out of Hyderabad, trying to get medicines to our patients faster. And if you really go back, fundamentally where we started was very simple. We had a very clear vision and we had a set of core guiding principles. And those core guiding principles were built on how do we build an innovative workforce, how do we collaborate more cross-functionally, how do we get a sense of urgency and a purpose for our employees who can deliver for our patients. And I think that DNA really helped us very well. And if you really think of it, we were also very clear what we didn't want to do, because a lot of the GCCs come in to say they want to do everything, and we held on to that part of what does not fit well as a strategic value for Bristol Myers Squibb Hyderabad. And the other piece I'll add is a lot of people confuse this to I call it the value versus volume, right? I think we always have to come in for value and deliver to what are the main goals for the company, right? And then value is a broad spectrum. Because in some cases, value can start off with automating and eliminating some simple manual activities, and the other side of the spectrum can be some breakthrough innovation that you can get, right? And we wanted to play to that spectrum, and that was a very clear guiding principle for us. 2-3 things that worked very well for us is we were very open to look at a very diverse workforce coming from different industries. You cannot be innovative by limiting yourself to certain areas or niche skills. So we were open to trying out build a workforce from different backgrounds, different industries, different experiences. And I think it's important to harness that in the first 6 to 12 months, because at some point that kind of fades away. And we were intentional to harness that. And the dream for any leader or any company is if you can do innovation at scale. So we were able to figure that out, mantra for us that helped us. That led to more people joining us, and that's how we could grow so quickly. The second part was we have an excellent sponsorship with what we call as a C-suite, right? We have folks who roll up in Hyderabad directly to the C-suite from a reporting perspective. The C-suite is very open for exploring global leadership, responsibilities, very open to thoughts that are coming, which is a very new setup, but they're very open to that. And that DNA is very important for us to kind of move forward, right? The third piece I'll say is what we refer to as, at the end of the day, all employees, we have to build one BMS culture. Sometimes what happens is everybody comes to the GCC saying, guys, I'm going to do these X things in the GCC, and the rest of the company is not doing it. It cannot be that. So it has to be one integrated culture. It has to be unified so that it's just not innovation happening in pockets only in one place, in one country or in one city. So I think we were very intentional that it would be one BMS culture. We got a lot of empowerment. There's a lot of trust that came in very quickly, and the teams could build that. That is kudos to the teamwork that happened on the ground. I think those 3-4 ingredients really helped us move very fast and deliver value for our capability center in Hyderabad. And just happy that we can sit here and talk about it, and behind it is a lot of teamwork and collaboration and many people and partners coming together.
So 1.5 years has been good so far, and we'll expect more coming in from BMS, right? That's what I should watch out for.
Yes, you should.
John, you've been here for a while, but last 4 years, that's something that changed for you all, right? At Novo. What was it that changed? What was it in the environment and the ecosystem that changed for you all?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, you're right. So Novo Nordisk has existed as a GCC here in India for 17 years. But it originally started as a transactional shared service center. And then we kind of scaled slowly. But over the last 4 years, we've grown by just more than 2,000 employees. So today we are 4,500 employees in India, covering pretty much the whole pharmaceutical value chain as a GCC. Everything from research and early development through to all the R&D activities, through to IT, finance, commercial, supply chain, etc. And I think the things that have really impacted this growth, first of all, is our ability to build and maintain trust with our headquarters. So first thing, of course, is to be able to deliver what you promise and not over-promise and under-deliver. So deliver on our promises, deliver quality, deliver efficiency, deliver speed. Second thing is to really maintain trust with our stakeholders. You know, as a broad organization, we have many stakeholders in headquarters, and them understanding what we do and trusting us to put more activities in our case in Bangalore is super important. And then we've also had to work a little bit externally to maintain and to build the brand of Novo Nordisk. 5 years ago, nobody really had heard of Novo Nordisk unless you had somebody with diabetes in your family. Today, we're more of a household name, and what that meant was us doing a little bit more external branding and also working hard on our talent attraction process to be able to be sure that we're hiring the right people with the right level of skills from the right places to be able to deliver that scale. So it's been an exciting journey, and it continues to be so.
Absolutely. Puneet, coming to you, I'm going to pick up from what Mohit as well as John have been mentioning. Value, trust, I think these are the key words, as well as culture. Your thoughts on these three as well. How have you built it at Takeda? How has that driven your force going forward for the GCC?
Yeah, it's a great question. And firstly, thank you very much for this opportunity. Value, the entire value ecosystem, right, is so central to Takeda, right? We any initiative, any thought process that we start, starts with keeping patient at the center, right? So we have a value system that talks about patients, trust, reputation, and then business, right? So we believe that if we take care of our patients, we can build trust, we have the right, things that can lead to reputation build-up, business will come automatically. That has been a fantastic approach by Takeda over, 243 years. It's a 243-year-old Japanese multinational, which has been focusing very, very strongly on these PDRB principles and our core values, which is keeping integrity at the center and, talking about honesty, fairness, and perseverance. I think these value and the ecosystem have really helped us, look at India as a strategic location, and we call it as the heart of digital innovation for Takeda, right? So, we went about looking at, obviously a lot of other countries where, we can get talent, right? And John was talking about it. We also ran about, getting talent from other European countries, right? So we looked at what are those strategic locations where we can find talent and not transactional, resources who can just work on, in silos and things like that. That's why our GCC, we are calling it as innovation capability centers, right? And they are all around the world. So starting from, we have from Mexico, Bratislava, India, and now we are going to have ICCs in Japan and so on and so forth. So from a strategy standpoint, our resources, our people are core to us, right? And we want them to get embedded into the business rather than, at one place or the other. It doesn't matter to us. What matters is that our people are imbibing our culture. They are loved and loved stands for living our values every day, right? So they are loved. They love and they are loved. living our values every day, and they get integrated into the business, driving value for the business.
Absolutely, that's interesting. Phani, coming to you. You're born and brought up company in India, right? 40 years is what you were saying.
Yes.
So I want to understand from your thought process, right? GCC, ICC, different names. But for Dr. Reddy's, what has the focus been? And how has that moved for them?
Yeah, so I think you're right. We are born in India for the world in that sense and been around for 40 years now. So for us, GCC has not been like a new idea that came in. It's about how we have structured ourselves to deliver value globally. So beyond the cost arbitrage, it has always been that value arbitrage that obviously started, because cost was not really the concern to start with in the first place, right? So when we looked at the global capabilities, as I would call it, it basically fell into three different buckets. One is, how does it deliver efficiency at scale? So as you're expanding into markets outside India, you're expanding globally into different therapy areas and spaces. How do you create efficiency at scale? So that was one of the key levers as we started looking at global capabilities. The second one is primarily on differentiated capabilities, because as John was mentioning it, some of us were talking about it. It's the only place where you can actually build these differentiated capabilities at scale. I was talking about how we could build very quickly a lot of omni-channel marketing capabilities right out of India once COVID, hit us, and when we started thinking about some of these things. How do you deliver, digital patient support, patient engagement platforms, build them from here, for instance. And even if you get closer into the core of R&D, deep science research and things like that, there are opportunities which we could actually leverage to, India for and kind of build those right out of Hyderabad in many of these places. So while we take a look at the work globally, like for example, a lot of our peptide work happens out of Cambridge, but a lot of the further elements of the value chain get done out of India. So in a sense that a bit of efficiency, differentiated capabilities, and increasingly as we see when we go into these differentiated business models, as we go into consumer healthcare, specialty products, biosimilars, a lot of these capabilities again, need to be thought more globally. So, for instance, the recent acquisition of an RT brand from Helion, for instance, the business is spread in 30 countries. But then, how do you kind of create the operational capabilities and the model that gets built for the globe, but from India, right? So I think these are the three main levers around which we thought of global capabilities, primarily in terms of efficiency, innovative capabilities, and integration into the operating models that are diversifying.
That's very interesting. And, Purav, you've worked with a lot of GCCs as well. So I want a word from you as well. The ecosystem, since you've been working over the years, how has that changed? General objective that you see, the consideration that comes in for India, what are you looking on that front?
It's a very interesting question. So we've been very fortunate to be at the front seat of this evolution, right? 10, 15 years ago, when we had to really convince people to come to India, now we are in the privileged position of pitching the India story to companies around how the ecosystem has changed, why it's not even an option, it's mandatory to be here in the Indian ecosystem. So we work on a range of problems, from convincing companies on how to start their India journey to companies which exist here around how do they solve specific talent problems, talent gaps. And the India market is fairly deep. You look at tier 2, tier 3 cities, tier 2, tier 3 institutions, you can go all the way and would always continue to find more talent, groom that talent. So usually companies have all these apprehensions, questions when they come to India. But essentially everyone wants to solve for scale and innovation. And India is not for beginners, but once you're able to convey the full story, get past it, I think everyone sees and unlocks the value.
Absolutely. Puneet, with tech coming in, AI coming in, I want to also understand the competition that is there for talent, right? Talent is a bit less compared to what we need right now. So on that front, how are you seeing that? How are you engaging with that meaningfully in terms of companies coming in? What are you solving? How is the problem being solved? Do you see that move?
Firstly, we all accept that it is a problem, right? I mean, at the end of the day, these are the same set of people that we want to have in our organizations. But I think one of the most important aspect for us is to not just keep looking at acquiring talent, but also looking at building talent. Let me tell you an example of how this is being done, right, at Takeda. So there could be a talent who works on a specific technology and an infrastructure. We take him and build him into the system in terms of the process and the project that the person works with, right? And then revolve him around the business, right? So today he or she might be working on a next gen AI solution, right? Tomorrow he or she might work on a process automation. Day after, so people start learning when they are put on projects, which also becomes exciting for them because they are continuously learning new skill. So one way is to acquire talent from the market. Other way is to also build talent as you go along. And one of the other examples myself, right? So I come with a business education, and I have been lucky to get an opportunity at Takeda to work on different complex problems, whether it is on the drug discovery space, whether it is on the manufacturing side, or whether it is on the access side, or whether it is on the HCP engagement side. So I have got an opportunity to work on different projects, and that's how you start building your capabilities cutting across the healthcare value system, not just focusing on a particular skill, which we may not see. Technology has a shelf life of a banana. I keep saying that, right? Today we are talking about Gen AI. Tomorrow we'll talk about something else. So it's important that we learn the business nuances and start innovating in terms of technology will solve for it, but understand the business problem and start going in that direction. That's the approach that we have at Takeda.
Absolutely. You're giving your personal experience as well. I think even Mohit will have that experience because coming in from this, a different industry. But Mohit, your experience in terms of driving this adoption for GCC, how has that been? And does the location of a GCC matter? How does the ecosystem matter? Right now you're in Hyderabad. What is the importance of that?
No, just to complete the previous thought, I think one thing we have to also start looking at talent is a fungible talent pool. What happens is we start labeling people as a Java person, as a Python person. I think the moment you say, guys, these are technologists who are there to solve business problems and get medicines to our patients faster, it becomes very different. And that's how we tackled it, because we were not very particular that you come from life sciences. We said, you're a great technologist, you can understand a business problem and solve it, you're here. Right? So I think that's going to be an industry thing that we'll have to start thinking about and be open to it. A lot of people are not open to it. And coming to the Hyderabad or the Telangana ecosystem, I call it, you clearly start off with style followed by substance, right? What I mean by that is you land at the airport, you take the ORR, you come into the high-tech city, and you're like, in 45 minutes making a decision to be in Hyderabad, in simple words. Sorry for my co-panelists who are from different cities. But that becomes easy, and that style is very quickly followed by a substance, where there are three important parts that come to it. First is you come to a very vibrant life sciences and pharma ecosystem. Goes back to the companies who've been there for 40, 50 years, starts all the way back from IDPL kind of days, if some of you are from Hyderabad, right? And that has led to big setups that have come in, and that has created a great ecosystem and a very easy decision to make to be in Hyderabad. The second part is that the government and the sponsorship and the support from the government has just been phenomenal. And the continuum of that has continued with different governments coming into. So the bureaucrats who've been there for the last 10 years driving this ecosystem continue to be there. And that's just kudos to everybody thinking about playing the Hyderabad, Telangana card versus playing something else, right? The third piece I would say is what we drive a little bit of more internally is what we refer to as the one BMS culture. That's going to be important for us.
That's interesting. And Phani, you've been here, TRL has been in Hyderabad. For you, the digital ecosystem, what are your initiatives now that you all are looking at on that front?
Yeah, I think digital continues to be an important factor for driving value. I don't look at it as, the way the transformation has been from a value enabler to a value creator. I think digital has completely transformed how we look at business, in the last few years particularly. So for us, the initiatives on digital from a transformation perspective are across the value chain. Like I talked about the R&D, some of the deep science, the subsidiary that we have in Origin Pharmaceutical Services, for example, we have an Origin.ai, a platform that allows, people to actually use AI/ML for drug discovery and help our customers with it. And goes all the way into how we do our chemistry, how we do our manufacturing. I talked about how one of our plants here is certified with the World Economic Forum's Digital Lighthouse, one of the very few plants early in the 2022-23 timeframe. And then as you go further down into the commercial and the patient journeys, a lot of the work that we're doing is a combination of what we call as the design, digital, and data coming together. Dr. Reddy's, for instance, was one of the very few companies to start our own design studio, to about, primarily to think about human-centered design. So things around that, when we actually brought the design, data, and the digital together, it kind of creates a very, very different, potent combination that essentially makes it very, very valuable. We are seeing, of course, a lot of interest and value both in our employees and from our partners on generative AI, as the buzzword as it is. But because as an industry, we have been a very, very paper-driven, regulatory, compliance, IP-led industry. There was a lot of work in terms of quality and regulatory that had to do with a lot of paper. And with generative AI, large language models, there is an exciting opportunity in front of us to actually rethink how our processes have been, how our people and work processes have been structured. So a lot of interesting work for us is happening in that space as well.
Absolutely. You all are talking about AI. I'm worried that next time I'll be interviewing you all, it'll be just some other robot AI talking to you all. But yes, that's surely a trend, and that is interesting in terms of helping the growth of companies as well. Puneet, what I want to know is, we did touch upon multiple cities setups, right? And you all do have presence in a lot of cities. So I want to know, how does that move across in terms of picking out talent? Is that important when you're selecting your locations? How do you decide on these locations? Pros and cons of these factors coming in.
So I think some of the things that have really worked for us is having resources or talent coming from all over the globe, right? So it's not, we keep saying this, right? It's India for the world, right? So the kind of talent that we are building here in India, right? So they're going to work on all the projects, right? And, cutting across the entire organization at Takeda, right? So the focus has always been to, get people who can get integrated into our culture. Again, I come back to culture every time, right? So can get integrated into our culture, abide by our thought process, our values, have an open mindset, a growth mindset, right? I think these are some of the things that we look at when we are looking at building people and talent and capabilities, right? Whether it is in India, whether it is outside India as well, because we have ICC and other location as well. But what interestingly India brings onto the table is they get so much into, the culture, the aspect of what are they delivering for the patients. I think that's something very, very inherent to our culture as well as Indians, is that, once we understand the value that we are delivering for the projects or the capabilities that we're working on, we really get into understanding and delivering, a lot more than what is being expected, right? So I think these are some of the things really helping us get the right talent in all the locations, specifically India. And I said that, right, previously as well, that for us, ICC, building an ICC was not a first mover advantage. We wanted to do it first time and do it right? And that's why we took some time in, finding the right strategic location for our ICC. And then I'm very happy to share that we are looking at expansion, right? So we are looking at expansion. We are very happy with what we have developed so far. Yeah, it's an early journey, but we are very, very happy with the kind of talent that we have seen in India and how they are contributing to the larger picture. One more aspect that I like to share is how we are looking at speed and agility that you talked about from a talent perspective. So we are looking at, an approach which have worked really well for us, right? Which is, the BOT approach, which is you build, operate, transform and transfer. Right, so this is one of the approaches that have worked very well for us. Partnering with the companies who are working in the life sciences space, approaching to them, and then having this bot model where they build and operate and build for us, and then we kind of transform and transfer into our organization. It worked really well for us in trying to expedite the talent and the capability that are needed in all the ICC's location. I think that's what I wanted to share, that has really worked well for us to kind of take it to the next level.
Absolutely, the bot approach does sound very interesting. John, coming to you in terms of multiple locations in India, have you've reached that certain scale. How do you decide on these more locations? At what point of the GCC life cycle do you think that, would you set up couple of them together? Would you wait for one to actually reach some point in the life cycle?
Yeah, thank you. It's an interesting question. I mean, I can't be here in Hyderabad and say I'm not curious. So, for Novo Nordisk, we're a little bit old-fashioned in the way we've approached our GCC builds, perhaps in previous years, in so much as up until last year, we only had one site globally as a GCC, and that was Bangalore. Only a year ago, we opened up a small center in Mexico City to serve the US time zone and some Spanish language capabilities. And I find ourselves very, very lucky. You know, we've scaled our place in India to such an extent now that we have very, very low attrition. We have very high engagement scores, and in general, a very happy workplace. So the decision to go somewhere else is quite a big decision to make, because you don't want to dilute that or affect it negatively. But there is an inevitability that we'll have to do that. So yeah, right now we're 4,500 people. Maybe we will get to a 5,000 kind of number. And over the next year or so, we will have to look at what location is best for us to then continue to scale. And there are some schools of thought which would say we should look in other countries. But I think for most of our stakeholders, they're super happy with India. And so as we grow new competencies across our value chain, we'll want to look at new locations in India to see whether we can find the right talent at the right scale and maintain a lovely culture.
Absolutely, this has been a very interesting chat with all of you all. Thank you so much for giving us your time. It's a pleasure having you all on the show. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.